want to do disaster relief work, I've always been interested in doing that kind of work because whenever something happened, I had this sort of desire to go and help and do something. Even though I don't have any formal training in doing that kind of work. And there's an organization called All Hands Volunteers. There are a number of them, but I think they're probably one of the biggest, that accepts untrained volunteers. There's sort of an application process where once they start a project, they'll ask for volunteers and you can sort of apply and tell them about yourself and what your skills are, and if they think you're a good match, then they let you show up. And they don't require any prior experiences, unlike a lot of organizations. So the end result is that they get a lot of really passionate people, and they also get a lot of diversity. I work with, I myself, I'm a software engineer who had some carpentry experience. There were others who were professional carpenters, some were students, some, I work with bankers, so it's a pretty diverse group, and it's really cool. And the way it works is they provide you shelter, and by shelter, they literally just mean a spot to sleep, so you get space big enough for a sleeping bag, and that's it, like the next person next to you. And this is particularly important in this disaster because there were so many evacuees, so many people had lost their homes, and there were a lot of evacuees that good living spaces were kind of reserved for the evacuees, and we didn't want to take space away from them. So we kind of crammed ourselves into whatever room they made available for us. And then they also feed you when you're on a project. They don't pay you, and you have to go there with your own money, but once you're there, they feed you. But their dinner budget is only about $2.50 per person. It's about 200 yen. So sometimes we were hungry, we come back from a day of work, and there wasn't always enough food. And also, I led a project and had to get creative to make sure we had enough food and we were nourished. Most of what we did was debris removal. I'm going to show you a bunch of before and after pictures. What you see on the left is kind of what this room looked like before we went in, and then kind of afterwards. We cleaned up outside of the structures. The city had brought in, the country had brought in, the government had brought in machinery to just pick up all the debris and haul it away in trucks. But anything inside the structures, like this big machinery can't get to, so people had to do it by hand. And there wasn't a whole lot of government support for that. Like if you're a business owner or a homeowner, you're kind of left to, on your own. So most homeowners were pretty happy to have volunteers, although we were a bunch of foreigners, so some of them were reluctant at first. We would also do sort of outside cleanup in areas where machinery couldn't get in. This is the job we did in the high school that I showed you earlier. We learned that a lot of the gymnasiums or athletic centers kind of like this were being used either as evacuation centers or as places to store relief supplies. And we found this school, and its gym wasn't being used. So we were like, well, we'll clean it up so that you can move stuff from the elementary school next door to the gym in the elementary school, and that way the kids can actually use the gym as a gym. And so we went in and cleaned it up and polished the floor and all that. We also cleaned up the classrooms, even though they had decided they weren't going to use the school again. We just decided that it was something that we could do and that would hopefully help the community in some way. When you go into a single home, you help that homeowner, but if you can help out in sort of public space like a school, then you can potentially help out the entire community so you can impact more people that way. And when we were working there, occasionally some former students would come and help out, and just because they wanted to see the school cleaned up. This is the hallway before and after. And once a lot of the cleanup had kind of progressed nicely, we started moving to helping rehab or preserve homes. A lot of homes in this area are made of wood, and when they're drenched in seawater and salt in the water can damage the wood, and it's really important to help dry out everything. So we would go in and remove the floorboards, and oftentimes underneath you find insulation like this that's still wet. A month or 2 months after the tsunami, the insulation was still wet, and that would eventually lead to rot, and then it would compromise the structure. So we would remove the wet insulation and then let everything dry out. In some cases, the floors had caved in, so we would just rip it out so that when carpentry